I'm Gil Meggerly, and this is a best practice tip by PR pro Susan Fleischman. Fleischman is Executive Vice President of Worldwide Corporate Communications and Public Affairs for Warner Brothers Entertainment. In a classroom conversation, Susan talked about her single most demanding experience with crisis communication.
One of the more difficult things, I was on the front lines of the Aurora shootings in Colorado. It was our movie, Dark Knight Rises. I was awakened by the head of the studio at about 1:30 in the morning.
It's about 12:30 a.m., 20 minutes or so into the sold-out premiere of The Dark Knight Rises. A gunman dressed head to toe in bulletproof gear and a gas mask throws a canister of what may have been tear gas into the room through the exit door, which he'd propped open earlier after purchasing a ticket to the movie and sneaking out of the theater.
We were on the phone all night, and as we got more and more facts, we sort of began to craft a strategy, but it was probably the hardest thing I've ever faced in my life. It makes Charlie Sheen, and yes, I was involved with him, that whole mess, it makes it look like a whole lot of stupid nothing.
Yeah, I am on a drug. It's called Charlie Sheen.
And we were working very closely with the governor's office. We were also talking about how we were going to address it as a company. We chose to be very, very low-key, not make it about us, to make it about the tragedy and helping with the tragedy. We gave a bunch of money. We didn't ever release the amount. We decided not to release box office.
Welcome back to Los Angeles. We usually get the weekend box office numbers from the movie studios late Sunday night. But Warner Brothers is holding off on the Dark Knight numbers until this morning, given the massacre in Colorado. Ben Tracy is here now with us in the studio on how they're handling the situation over at Warner Brothers. It is a very dicey time for them.
For sure, and there was an unprecedented sign of solidarity in Hollywood this weekend.
That Sunday, we put out an initial statement that I had people in my office saying that it was cold, and it wasn't as warm. And you always get critique. This is the other thing, by the way. Everyone knows how to do your job, in case you were worried. Because PR, anyone can do it, right?
Sure.
So easy. So we put that out, and we had to be that way because you have to think about liability for the company. You know you're going to get sued, probably. Every lawyer has parsed any sentence that you've made because you can say, our hearts and prayers go out to the victims and their families, but you can't say anything more than, you can't ever accept responsibility for what happened. And so, as a result, things don't sound warm and fuzzy. But what we did was we let Chris Nolan and his wife Emma do a statement that was beautiful and eloquent, and he's a writer and a brilliant man, and that we let stand for the emotion, because we as a company couldn't. And then I wrote a letter for Barry that he sent to all employees worldwide, again, vetted like you wouldn't believe, but had a lot more warmth because he was speaking to our employees and basically saying, could express the sentiments that he truly felt and that we truly felt, which we knew was going to get leaked, and wrote it purposely. That's the other thing. Anything internal you write with the mindset that it will go external. And that's why my other philosophy, my other belief is the internal message always matches the external and vice versa. So what you say to your employees is what you say to the press, what you say to the world. You may give more detail sometimes to certain constituencies, but primarily, that stuff has to match up.
Fleischman's comments illustrate the communications theory known as gatekeeping theory, which suggests various benefits to filtering messages before their dissemination. Gatekeeping by public relations teams is thought to be especially important during crises. For example, well-designed messages are essential to properly informing key publics, to protecting a client's reputation, and to guarding against unwarranted liability. This has been a PR best practice tip.